guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Rabo Villani. I'm a health coach inspired to bring you healthy meals one plate at a time. My mission here is to bring you authentic cuisines from all over the world, just making it a tad bit healthier. So let's get into today's recipe. So how many of you guys have tried cake Rusk before? Well, seriously, cake Rusk just brings me nostalgia feeling. I grew up eating it. It's basically what it is. It's a cake that's baked twice to give it the toastiness on the outside, and the inside is still very moist. And what you do is you dip it into chai, or you dip it into coffee, or even milk, and just have it like that, or even itself. It's kind of like a texture of a biscotti, but it's a little bit more moist inside. And it's the same toastiness on the outside. So what I love about cake Rusk is it seriously goes with anything because there's not much flavor to it except the sweetness in it. So I grew up eating it with milk, and if I was lucky, I did get to dip it into chai too, but that was rarely the case. So let's get started on today's recipe. So for this recipe, what we have to do is start the oven to 325 preheated, so that way while we're making the recipe, the oven is already preheated. Let's go ahead and start that. So let's get started on the recipe. Let's switch out these bowls because first we're going to sieve through the whole wheat flour with baking powder. So the only reason we're making this with whole wheat flour is because it's a tad bit healthier than your regular flour, and that's what we want to do in this channel, is bring you healthy recipes. And I actually like the taste of it because it's a little bit more dense than your regular white flour, and yeah, so it works perfect with this recipe. Since this is whole wheat, the whole wheat part of it stays inside the sieve. So once you're done sieving the flour, you can just dump that in there. Kind of like this, just dump this in there. Now we can switch the bowls again. So now we're gonna cream the butter. Since it's cold here, the butter is still a little cold. I kept it out. It asked for a half a cup of room temp butter, but since it's cold here, the butter is really cold still. So I'm gonna warm it up in my microwave for about 15 to 20 seconds. So this is how the butter will look once it's out of the microwave. I'm going to use my spatula to take out all the goodness from this dish. Recipe calls for half a cup of sugar, but since we're using maple sugar today, we're gonna use 1 cup of it. Like I said, I would usually use half a cup, but since this is not as sweet, we're just gonna use 1 cup of it. So we're gonna add it to our butter and combine it really well. Let's go. Okay. So at this point you see it flying out everywhere, and the reason being is because the maple sugar is a little clumpy, and that's bound to happen. Alright, so now we're ready to add the eggs in it one at a time. These 2 eggs were also room temp. So yeah. Point, it looks creamy and delicious. Okay. Now for the second part of the recipe, I like using the spatula because it mixes well with the spatula and the flour, or else it just flies everywhere. So let's just use the spatula for this. Alright, so now we're ready to add in the flour mixture. And we'll add it a little at a time. Oops. Okay, I'm going to continue mixing this and I'll be right back. Until then, I'm going to also line my dish with some wax paper. So I'll be right back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to oil our dish and then we're going to cut out the parchment paper. Use all your muscles to do this. Alright, so now this is ready to go in the oven. Alright, so here's my little baking tray and I'm going to put this in the oven for 40 minutes now. So let's do this. This is twice baked. We're gonna bake it for 40 minutes and then we'll take it out, let it cool for 10 minutes. Then we're gonna put it on a cookie sheet and bake it for 10 minutes on 300 degrees. And then we're gonna flip it and bake it again for 10 minutes on 300 degrees. So let's take a short break and I'll be right back. I'm gonna take this out. And we're gonna let this cool for 10 to 15 minutes. While this is cooling, we're gonna bring the temperature down to 300. Okay, so we're ready to cut this now. Alright, so how we're gonna cut this is we're gonna cut probably a ½ inch, a little more than ½ inch. And the parchment paper helps it get golden brown from the edges of the baking sheet. That's why we have parchment paper on the baking sheet. Okay, now this is ready to go back in oven for 10 minutes on this side and then 10 minutes on the other side. Alright, so 10 minutes on this is over. Now we can just flip it. Now we're going to put it back in oven for 10 more minutes and then they're done. Alright, so these are done. They look fantastic. Yes. So this is it. We can plate them after a few minutes, after they're cooled down a little. Thank you for joining me today. I had a lot of fun making this recipe. I hope you did too. It's Like I said, it's a very nostalgic recipe for me, so I truly enjoyed making it. Hopefully I will see you next week with another healthy recipe. Until then, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye! Look at this beauty. I cannot wait to dig into it.